I've just been told you're pregnant, get over it. I just had this inner burning feeling of, if I am going to do this, now is the time. Someone is going to do it. If I don't do it now, as soon as they're asleep, that's when I'm back on my laptop till probably midnight most nights.
Sara, you have just launched a skincare brand called Skin to Skin, and it's specifically for pregnant women. What sparked the idea?
So I started Skin to Skin from my own personal pain points when I was pregnant. So I was pregnant with my first daughter in 2020. And it wasn't until I was 6 months pregnant did I realise I was using all the wrong skincare products. I suffered really badly from hormonal acne, but also this intense sensitivity that I've never experienced before. I've had acne as a teenager, but my skin is like bomb-proof. I used to be able to put anything on it and nothing ever reacted. I used to get chemical peels a lot, and, I could literally go to work straight away afterwards. It was never really red. And then as soon as I got pregnant, my skin just was inflamed all the time, really, really raw red, and to the point where I actually was getting burn marks around my eyes from the skincare products I was using.
Wow.
And I went to my GP about it. I went to my midwife about it, and both of them were like, yeah, you're pregnant. It's your hormones. And it really struck me. I was like, wow, it's like there's obviously something happening on my skin, and I've just been told you're pregnant, kind of get over it. And it was only until I was going to get more of my skincare products from my facialist. I was using skincare products that you couldn't buy in a Boots or a Space NK. You actually had to buy it from a licensed facialist. And the reason why is because they were all really high in vitamin A. So vitamin A is obviously retinol. And it's the biggest no-no during pregnancy because it has proven data to show that it has negative effects to the growth of your unborn child. Mm-hmm. So hearing this 6 months pregnant during lockdown was obviously very hard to hear. And I really struggled to kind of come to grips with the fact that I've been using something that was not safe for my baby for 6 months. And there was no safety labels, there was no information. I was Googling stuff online, but I wasn't necessarily saying pregnancy safe skincare because I didn't know it was a thing or something that I needed to worry about. You're not supposed to drink alcohol, you're not supposed to eat sushi, but they don't say anything about what's going on to your skin, not in your body. So after I had found that out, I went to my local Boots and asked them for pregnancy safe skincare, and they were like, it doesn't exist. You have to go to the maternity section and see what's available. And I was met with the stretch mark creams, the nipple balms, and products that looked like they were for baby. And right there in High Street Kensington in Boots, that's when the idea came to me. I was like, it's insane that women are the biggest purchasers of skincare products, yet for this cohort of women, there's nothing for them. We have to guess what's safe or not because there's no safety labels on most products. There's, they don't say to avoid. And also, it's a time where you're already vulnerable and you're already afraid of what's happening and nervous of what's happening. And skincare shouldn't be an area where you feel doubt. It should be something that's really enjoyable to use. And that's where, I love skincare because of that. It's my 5 minutes of peace to myself and my little evening ritual. So that's where it sparked. And I really had this bee in my bonnet to help support other women who, like me, might have felt sidelined in life when once pregnant. And skincare was one area of that where I felt like it needed to change.
Got it. We'll get into your business now because I'm really interested in building a beauty business. But can I ask, you were 6 months along, you heard that retinol isn't safe. A lot of women go through that, I think, at various things. They realize they did something, before getting pregnant. And I guess it's a scary time. So did that fear stay with you until all the way up to the 9 months?
Yeah, absolutely. And heightened it. I was really then nervous of what I was eating, what I was drinking, other skincare products. There's other ingredients that you should also avoid. So salicylic acid is one of them, above 2%, which is common ingredient that you would have if you have acne, and hormonal acne is the number one thing that women suffer during pregnancy, also postpartum. Then there's also hydroquinone, which is an ingredient that you use for skin lightening, and hyperpigmentation or pigmentation is something that women also get during pregnancy, that pregnancy mask or melasma, and that's a common ingredient that products to get rid of that would use. So obviously that's something else that you shouldn't use. But then there's also harsh ingredients as well that you should avoid during pregnancy, not for the fact that it will be unsafe to use for your baby, but it's not necessarily the right products for you to use on your skin, especially if you're having that heightened sensitivity. It does, and that's what was causing the burn sensations on my face, was the fact that I was using high levels of retinol as well as high levels of salicylic acid. I was using glycolic cleansers every single morning and eating. So it was basically stripping my skin's natural barrier unbeknown to me. So, yeah.
Got it. So you've spoken before about bootstrapping the brand. Can you elaborate on that? So was it very much from your personal savings?
Yeah, so I originally came up with the idea in 2020. I had been working in the music industry at that point. And I had this idea. I wasn't like, I'm definitely going to do it, but I had it in my mind. Every evening I would come home from work, I would do some research. And the more I was doing it, the more this gap in the market was so visible to me. I had my second daughter in 2023, and around the time of my maternity leave, I just had this inner burning feeling of like, if I'm going to do this, now is the time. Someone is going to do it if I don't do it now. So I was like, turned to my partner. I was like, if I do this, how are we going to afford our life? We've got 2 kids. It's a huge gamble. But he is an entrepreneur himself, and he's very much a bit of a risk taker. And he was really supportive and just said, go for it. You're so passionate about this. It's all you do and talk about. And you're right. This is the time to do it, and the time is now. So we sold our apartment in London and moved to the suburbs of Windsor, which is kind of like moving from town to Greystones.
Yes.
Describe it to my Irish friends. But we made the move and decided to use the money that we had got from the sale of our apartment to fund Skin to Skin at the early days, and then rented places in Windsor. So yeah, it was a massive risk, especially with 2 young kids. A lot of sleepless nights being like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And really trying to train my brain not to think negatively. And it's actually been a really big something really big for me to overcome, because I'm naturally quite an anxious person. So it's been a lot of personal work to kind of overcome that. But yeah, I funded the business for the first 6 months, everything from living myself. I needed to contribute to the house, but also it was research. It was hiring people who are experts in their field. So I hired a CMO, a fractional CMO, who helped me literally 1 day a month. But her expertise were incredible and just gave me so much insight. But the first thing I did was contact a consultant dermatologist and a GP. And once I had them on board, I was like, right, these are the best people in their field. I cannot let them down, as well as myself. So we spent a lot of money in our research and development to start with, but then also the formulation. So we actually started working with an independent chemist outside of a contract manufacturer, which is quite a common path for a lot of beauty brands to do. It was an expensive route, but it meant that we had full control over our ingredients and our products, and we were able to talk directly to the chemist as well, and speed things up a little bit more, because their clients are, a handful of clients, not hundreds of clients, which a lot of these manufacturers have. So it was self-funded up until we had an interview with Boots, and then things all stepped up a gear, and that's when I had to go out looking for funds.
Wow. But tell me, what's the most expensive aspect of launching a beauty brand? You mentioned research and development there. Would that be the spendiest part of it, or is there another aspect?
Yeah, well, because I had started R&D in 2021. That's when I really started. And I was in a job at the time. So I was doing, 2 or 3 hours in the evenings, pretty much every single night, plus weekends. So that aspect of it was, it was just long, because if I had not done that and had to take time and do it myself without actually having a job, yes, that would have been the most expensive part, because it does take a lot of time, like months. It's not just go on ChatGPT and come up with the concept. You really have to, we did exclusive surveys as well to speak to the women who we were going to be serving. So we did a survey to 130 women across UK and Ireland, who were either trying to conceive, pregnant, breastfeeding, postpartum, asking them loads of questions on what skincare they were using, what their pain points were, and also just their knowledge on skincare during pregnancy.
Yeah.
That was expensive, but actually the most expensive thing out of all of this has been the formulation of our products. That has been definitely the most expensive part of all of this.
Yes. So from the initial idea back in 2020 to getting products on shelves, how long did it take?
So from the day I decided to start Skin to Skin, was the day that I had spoken to my consultant dermatologist advisor, Professor Katrina Ryan. She is the co-owner of the Institute of Dermatologists in Dublin. And as soon as I got her on board, and also our GP advisor, Dr. Raj Arora, that's when we sat down and we started talking about the products, what was to go in them, what not to go in them. And then it was speaking to a formulator and a chemist to actually come up with the products. It probably took a year, the guts of a year, to actually choose, right, this is the product. This was about 5 to 10 rounds of different formulations and samples. So we would get the sample, we would try it, we would check its smell. It was all supposed to be fragrance free, but sometimes they would have a smell from the ingredients. So that was something that we needed to take into consideration. We also did an insane amount of research into every single ingredient. That took a lot of time. And then just, how it felt on the skin, how it looked. And there was a lot of back and forth on that. But as soon as we were really happy with each of the ingredients, then it went into testing, and that took the guts of 6 months. Okay. So, it took 2.5 years from the day I started, officially started Skin to Skin, taking the R&D out of it. So the R&D probably took about 2 years, but it was about 2.5 years from the day we started Skin to Skin to the day it was on the shelf. Yeah,
it must have been some buzz though, seeing it on the shelf for the first time. Did you have a little ceremony, or how did you celebrate it?
I had no idea how I felt it was going to feel. So my team were like, we'll all go with you, we'll film it, it'll be amazing. I was like, no. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to cry for happiness or cry for being terrified. So I was like, I took that time with my husband. He came around with me to all the stores in London to go and check to make sure that they were there.
Yeah.
And first when we went into, oh my God, it was like this overwhelming joy. But then this newfound fear that set into me because it was I've been so consumed in getting it on the shelf, and then it was a new shift in getting it off the shelf.
Yes.
So it unlocked a new fear that I didn't dissipate.
Yeah. It's not for the faint-hearted.
No, it's definitely not. No.
Yeah. You know your way around beauty, so I'm curious, can you share with me any beauty products that you think, outside of your own brand, that you like, that you think are effective but yet affordable?
So my beauty routine has very much changed since I have had kids, because my time is less, and also I don't have as much disposable income to be spending 50, 100 plus on skincare products. So for me, I religiously wear Skin to Skin. It's the only skincare products I use. So, but outside of that, I love this makeup brand called Merit.
Okay.
They're really beautiful formulations, but what's so great about them is that it literally takes me less than 5 minutes to get ready in the morning. The application is great. It blends really nicely, and it literally lasts all day, and it looks really, really nice over all of our skin to skin products as well.
Okay.
And then outside of that, La Roche-Posay, I think, is still, a safe pair of hands to be in.
Yes, yeah, I would totally agree there. So you mentioned there your husband is also an entrepreneur, so 2 entrepreneurs and 2 children. How do you make that work in terms of childcare? What's the strategy?
Yeah, so we're fortunate that we can both dictate our working hours. However, our working hours are very much working hard during the day, and then as soon as the kids go to sleep, then we're back working again. Our date nights are usually at the kitchen table now.
2 laptops.
2 laptops and a takeaway.
Yeah.
I don't drink anymore, so I'm on the I'm usually on a San Pellegrino orange juice, and he's on a glass of gin and tonic.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't have any, so my family live in Ireland, so we don't really have family around us. So it's very much on us. We're very fortunate. We've moved to Windsor and made amazing friends. My kids have amazing friends. So we very much lean on the community here, but we don't have endless amount of money to pay for wraparound care and childcare 24/7. So our kids do go to nursery. My eldest daughter is about to start school in September, and their school is literally like a 2-minute walk from our house. So it's very much drop them there in the morning, usually around 8 o'clock, and then pick them up at 4. And then I try my hardest to have 2 hours with them where my phone is on silent, so I can be focused and be with my kids and be present, and then do bedtime, dinner, bedtime, and then as soon as they're asleep, usually around 8 o'clock, that's when I'm back on my laptop till probably midnight most nights.
Most nights, wow.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah. But I don't think there's any other way, is there? Having talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, that seems to be the way they do it.
Yeah, and also it's like, everyone wishes they had more time in the day, but we make it work. We also have to just be really mindful of the time that we have. I very much, not that I was never a procrastinator. I've always been a really hard worker. I think that's where how I've got to where I am is because I've never been afraid of hard work. And I think if I was someone who was afraid of hard work or didn't want to put the work in, there's no way Skin to Skin would be where it is today, because it's any opportunity to work, I'm on it. Like, I have to get up multiple times a night with my kids. I'm still breastfeeding, but especially when my youngest was like very young and breastfeeding her a couple of times during the nights, like I'd be on my phone checking things, on emails, doing research on Instagram, seeing what everyone's doing. And I still do it. Last night I was up for a good half an hour with her. Yeah. So yeah, it just never stops. But this whole work-life balance thing, it's great on paper, but it's not realistic in our lives, unfortunately.
Yeah. So you've always been a hard worker. Were you like that when you started with Principal Management? So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, that was founded by U2's former manager, Paul McGuinness. So you went in there as an intern.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate to get an internship with them at 18. I was there for a couple of weeks. Then I ended up working there for a full year. I can't remember what year. I want to say 2019. It was around the time of the 360 tour. But I loved it, absolutely loved it. You're working with people who, and I was an intern, obviously I was getting the teas, the coffees, answering the phones, going to the post office. Like it was going from the ground up, but watching people like Paul, like Susan Hunter, who he works with, who I'm still great friends with. She's my mentor for many, many years. But just the whole U2 team, everyone works so hard. No one complains because it's everyone enjoys it. And I think that's where I've got the love of, the harder you work, the better outcome is for everybody.
Yes.
And just seeing, the fruits of your labor. If you work hard, you see, what happens and the success that everyone has for doing that.
You said you lived a rock and roll lifestyle in your 20s. What was that like?
It was just a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
I was probably away more times than I was home, which I loved. Travel has always been like my favorite thing in the world. A lot of late nights, a lot of, our work starts at 9 p.m. when the gig is on. And then, it's, 11 o'clock when it finishes. And by the time you load out and, you've said hi to everybody, you're not back into your hotel till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Then you're up at the crack of dawn, back on an airplane or a tour bus or car or train, however you're traveling. Yeah. So it's quite, it's definitely not for the faint-hearted. Yes. You definitely have to have your wits about you, especially touring. It's a really grueling thing. But it was a great, I think the only time to really enjoy it, I think, is your 20s. I'm sure people enjoy it in their 30s and 40s and 50s. But I think as soon as I had kids, it changed. It definitely changed that aspect of it because traveling became really, really tough.
What was the biggest budget tour that you were ever on? By which I mean, the most expensive, or like full theatrics, full stage show.
Yeah, no, it has to be U2. Yeah. No one beats them.
Okay, yeah. Have you seen any insane riders?
So riders are funny. I think there's maybe a misconception of riders in terms of like artists just taking the piss. But what you have to understand is riders are there for artists to support them on the road because they don't have the luxury of a washing machine sometimes. Sure. Or able to go to the store and buy whatever. So you might see on a rider at when you read the newspapers and it's like they wanted doves, they wanted only M&Ms. I'm sure that people are doing that, but a lot of ours, the ones that I used to work on, was like clean socks, yes, clean pants, vitamins, anything that was just trying to maintain a comfortable kind of life. But there's one artist who used to have a traveling disco with him. Okay. And that was amazing because anytime he had his dressing room set up, it was like a full-blown disco. So I guess it's not necessarily like crazy because it was his own stuff that he brought around, but I always thought that was quite fun.
Yeah, and he had the silver ball and everything. It's ready to go.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. Oh, okay. It was like the disco balls that you get when you're 12.
Yeah.
That like light up and like different colors, like tacky but fun.
Yeah. So tell me, did you notice things changing? Because you were there for a few years, and as Spotify was getting bigger and bigger, and we're hearing more and more that it's hard for musicians to turn a profit. Did you notice anything changing, that touring became more important?
Yeah, absolutely. There was also such a huge disparity between an artist and record labels. They would be making millions and artists would still be living in their one-bedroom flat, sometimes with their parents. It's not... You definitely saw a big shift. Touring is so important for a huge amount of artists, but it's just become so expensive. To make a tour work, you have to go back-to-back shows. Having days off is a day where you're not making any money and you're still paying for all of your crew, your hotels, everything. So it's really important to make as much profit, but also maintain a balance for the band and crew's mental health, because it's group. As I said before, you're not getting back to your hotel till 2, 3 in the morning, and then you're up at the crack of dawn doing it all over again and putting on your happy face and making sure everyone is, having a great time. And that's a huge responsibility for artists. But definitely, you see a lot in the news with artists having to cancel tours because it's getting so expensive. Travel fees, costs for flights, hotels, visas now because of Brexit. Yeah. It's all just it's just more and more costs getting involved, and the fees are not getting bigger to compensate for that. But on the recording side, definitely there's definitely areas where you see like how, you see YouTubers making millions of pounds off YouTube, where artists don't really see that. So it's something that needs to be looked into.
Yeah. When you were on a tour and it was over budget, what would be the first thing that you'd then cut? When you're over budget, what's the first thing that has to come off?
To be honest, like you would do, well, any tour that I would be on, we would know if it was over budget before we'd even agree to do it.
Yeah.
But where you see people squeezing costs is the amount of crew. So crew is obviously expensive because not only are you paying the day wage or a day rate for those people, but it's hotels, it's an extra hotel, it's an extra room on the bus, it's an extra room on an airplane. So that's probably where people would try and squeeze and get crew members to do multiple jobs.
Sure.
So on paper, sounds great, but at the end of the day, that's a human being who's being stretched, and also, they're actually the ones that sleep the least out of everyone because they have to and load in. So you see there the production as well. Production's really expensive because obviously you have to freight it. So that sometimes can take a hit. However, there's definitely really innovative ways to make your stage production look amazing without having to spend a fortune. But sadly, I think it's the crew, the area of the crew that sometimes gets a bit of a squeeze to make things work.
Yes. Are there any parallels between the work that you used to do and launching a skincare brand? Can you see anything that you've kind of learned from being on the road and in the music industry to now, where that's quite similar?
Yeah, I think when I left the music industry, I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I've never worked in the skincare industry. I've only ever worked in the music industry. Like, am I going to be able to do this? But working in the music industry, you have to be entrepreneurial, especially working in management, because you're essentially the business partner or one of the business partners of your client. So, you're helping them deal with their record label, their publishing company, their touring company, their merch company, and all sorts of aspects of their business, whether sometimes they might have a clothing brand or they're, doing brand partnership deals. So there's like a lot of spokes to their wheel, and I definitely helped coordinate all of that, and a lot of moving parts, a lot of fires being put out on an hourly basis, not a daily. So I think the resilience that I built up from that really helped me start this job, because I think there's so many pitfalls and hurdles that I think, I actually have been meeting a lot of people who have similar ideas to start a skincare brand or any kind of brand. And it's the same question. They're like, oh, I started, but I stopped because it was, too scary, or I didn't know what to do. So I kind of just stopped, where I think that's really benefited me from working in the music industry, which is so relentless. Like, I keep making a joke being like, what the greatest thing about working in skincare is that my clients now don't speak back to me, i.e. my skincare products. Whereas before, if all things would go smoothly and then suddenly someone would not want to go, or they sleep in, or they decided they don't want to do it anymore, and the whole thing shifts. So there's definitely parallels in that, but I think that kind of entrepreneurial spirit is something that I definitely took from the music industry for sure.
And since launching a brand and becoming an entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur, because you said you were always entrepreneurial, how has your approach to money changed, or has it?
Yeah, so now I treat every pound in my bank account, business bank account, as my own. I'm very cautious of overspending or spending. I have to vet everything that goes out of my bank account to make sure that it's working for us and getting a return. But yeah, it's scary. When I started off, as I said, we were bootstrapping, so it was absolutely my money was coming out of my bank account. But as things have escalated, sometimes it can be quite overwhelming, some of the costs. You're like, oh my God. But it's something that I am getting better at managing, and I've got a team now who help me on the financial side to make sure that everything is in order. But it's a big change, and in terms of my personal finances, it's definitely taken a hit. I'm not on a steady salary anymore. I'm taking I pay myself as little as absolutely possible. My husband very much covers the most of our living expenses, and our lifestyle is completely different. I think everyone has this idea of like, oh, you're an entrepreneur or you're a CEO or you start a skincare brand, you must be making millions. Absolutely. I'm the first person who takes a pay cut if something goes wrong. I actually pay myself the least out of anyone who works with me. So it's definitely not like a cha-ching moment at all. That day will come. But yeah, I think everything, I'm just so careful with spending money, even personally, work-wise, everything.
Yes, yes. I've heard different takes on how long it takes for a brand to turn profitable. Have you got a number in mind? I've heard everything from kind of 3 to 5 to 10 years even. Have you got a number in mind?
Yeah, so profitability is very important to us, and we want to build a brand that is profitable, but also innovative and trustworthy. But also, we have to make a financial model, and we have investors, so we have to plan this stuff out. Yeah, it would be between 3 to 5 years to make a profit, but we're not all about the top line. Well, I'm certainly not about the top line. As we have goals to be a multi-million-pound revenue company, but I do have a lot of plans to reinvest that money into innovation, into research, into product development, clinical trials. It's really important for us to, my mission for Skin to Skin is to be the Pampers of pregnancy skincare. Pampers is a brand that's trusted, well known, and that's what I want for Skin to Skin, for us to be the go-to brand for pregnancy skincare, and be a trustworthy brand. So for me, it's really important that we reinvest and put the money where our mouth is, and do the research and do the trials, clinical trials. All testing is really expensive, but it's something that is a non-negotiable for us.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's so exciting. There's more and more Irish women now launching beauty brands that they're thinking global from the get-go. I think Chupi Sweetman was on recently, and we spoke about that. It's not necessarily they're building it for the Irish market and dipping their toes. It's like they're thinking big from the start. And I think that's wonderful. In terms of your goals for the next few years, personal financial goals, do you have any?
Personal financial,
and that could be anything. That could be good, like budgeting, or so spending X on this, or not spending, or anything like that.
To be honest, I'm just keeping my head above water at the moment. My kids are they're expensive little things. So yeah, it's for me. On a personal financial level, yes, I want to be able to bring my kids on holidays, and it's like the simple things. I'm not doing this to have a flashy car or designer clothes or anything like that. I just want to be able to have financial peace of mind that I can afford to do nice things with my kids, to send them to school, really kind of basic things. But for me, just financial security is really, really important to me. And then in terms of the business, I see the next 5 years us going global. It's very much a plan of ours, and to make a profit, but to also reinvest a lot of our money into innovation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for being so generous with it. And the very, very, very best of luck with the brand. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. Thanks.
Thank you.